Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TrustSwap Interview Series. My name is Brett Fabian. I'm being joined today by Zac from Team.Finance and Jessica from 0x Labs. And we're very excited to bring you an AMA between the two companies to talk about the future, what's going on right now, and their recent partnership announcement. I'm super excited to hop into this call. How are you both doing? Jessica, how are you doing today?
Yeah, excited to be here and excited for this conversation.
Amazing. Zac, how you been?
Yeah, ticking along. Great to be here. Really excited to announce this partnership with 0x. Been really enjoying working with them. So yeah, awesome to be here, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for joining me. I really appreciate it. Everyone here at TrustSwap is super excited about this as well, and we're really looking forward to chatting with both of you today. We might as well get it started off. Jessica, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? Let me know a little bit more about 0x and kind of your goals for the company. What are you guys doing over there?
Sure. So yeah, myself, I'm the developer advocate over at 0x Labs, and what that means is helping empower the community of developers who are excited to build with our 0x products. And so what exactly are those products? 0x Labs is the core project that built out the 0x protocol. So the 0x protocol is this open source infrastructure that's meant to handle exchange of tokenized assets. And so 0x Labs, as the core team, built out this protocol and has built out tooling on top of that protocol to make it easier for developers to leverage this underlying infrastructure. And so tooling meaning the API. So what Team.Finance has built upon. We also have user-facing product, Matcha, the decentralized exchange, but really focusing on building out the developer tooling to enable this world of exchanging tokenized value.
Amazing. Absolutely love it. Zac, yeah, turning it right over to you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? A little bit about Team.Finance and kind of what are your goals for the Web3 space? What are you guys working on over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a product manager at Team.Finance. What Team.Finance is Carter plus Deal for Web3, for those that might be familiar with those two companies. Basically, what that kind of translates to is we are a one-stop shop for token founders, right? So if you think about any part of the journey when it comes to a token founder, whether it be creating your token in the first place, or creating vesting for your employees, paying your employees, creating vesting for your investors, for example, we provide a full range of services for token founders. So no matter if you're at the very beginning of the process or you're already a little bit more advanced, we aim to be that one-stop shop for token founders.
And we're very excited to talk a little bit later about the integration between Team.Finance and the 0x Labs. Amazing. Well, we'll start with you, Zac. How long have you been in the crypto industry? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, background?
Yeah, absolutely. So have been involved in the space since the end of 2017. Got involved just kind of through luck, really, through some friends. And we really stayed in the space just because, for me, things that fascinate me are, the big political and economic questions that you find in crypto, whether it be the principle of decentralization, privacy, governance through DAOs. There's just so much that there is going on in the space. And interestingly enough, back in 2019, I was working as a business associate at Techstars, which is a worldwide accelerator program, on their blockchain accelerator program. And I remember one of the speakers that we had there was Will Warren, the CEO of 0x. So funny how the world turns 360, and here we are today, 3 years later. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself and experience. Started off in 2017 and lucky enough to have just kind of stayed and stuck along for the ride.
Amazing. You're one of those 2017s that has held on for dear life, like myself, going up and down.
Oof, not an easy journey, but here for the ride, that's for sure.
Here for the ride and here for the end goal, right? Jessica, how about yourself? How long have you been in the industry? And can you tell me a little bit about your personal story?
Nice. Well, it's cool to hear that. Yeah, you got to see Will speak. So it's definitely a small world. So yeah, get to join the Cool Kids Club and say that I also joined around the 2017 bull run. So that was I've been holding on since then as well. So I joined through the ed tech side, actually, educational technology. So back during that time, I was teaching Android development, and so was doing that for about 3 years, and kind of was reaching a point where I was trying to see like what's next in technology. Been doing mobile for a while, and thankfully had a teammate who had just been advocating for blockchain development programs for essentially since the beginning of Bitcoin. And so finally, 2017 bull run coinciding with just us trying to look at new programs, we came together and said, let's form a blockchain developer program. And so I got to be on that team, co-creating the program, learning, diving into the tech stack. And so through that, really fell in love with the technology and just the opportunities that it was looking to unlock. So yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Been a fun ride. Wow, day one development almost, kind of getting right in there at that early adopter stage. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely seen so much of the tooling change from like really janky going to conferences and people are building it just felt like yeah, really at the ground level building and like very conceptual applications. They're like, oh, like this, this application will like empower people to have self-identification. I'm like, that's literally just like a web page. It's so yeah, it was really exciting to see that evolve to where we are now and just the breadth of applications from the ones that you guys are working on to how the ecosystem has grown. So yeah, excited to see where the next 4 years leads to.
Definitely. That kind of leads me into one of my next questions that I actually wanted to talk about. Jessica, I'd love to start with you. How has the industry really changed? What's so different from that 2017 where you started to today, 2022? Maybe what would you kind of say is the biggest difference and biggest change that you've really seen?
Interesting. I feel like where we are now is, at least is just like thinking back to what I was thinking about in 2017. It feels like some of the things that we've talked about have materialized, right? 2017 was, I think, 2 years after Ethereum became a thing. So 2017, we were like, oh, like we have this layer on top of this basic blockchain now. Like what sort of like what can we do with this layer of logic? And there were just so many ideas getting floated around from the financial system to like medical system. But I think a lot of things were just in discussion still. And 2017 was a lot of ICOs, and so just like a lot of just boom and excitement of like formulations of ideas versus now I think things have become a little bit more concrete. Like the hype cycle has died down, kind of the dust has settled, certain pieces have been more cemented. So yeah, excited to see the certain industries that have evolved continue to evolve, but then also the industries that maybe have just started burgeoning again, maybe take a little bit more root this time in this bear run.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to see kind of that hype cycle that you were speaking of, and then the development, and then all of a sudden a hype cycle, and then a development. And I know at TrustSwap, I know at Team.Finance as well. That's something that we're really focused on with hiring more people, putting our heads down, and getting to work. So that all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, where did this pop up in the bear or in the next bull market?" But people don't actually know what goes on in the bear.
Yeah,
absolutely. Zac, what about yourself? 2017 start. What's kind of one of the biggest changes in the industry that you've seen or kind of witnessed through your personal experience?
Yeah, I suppose there's a couple main things. Going back to kind of my story before about Will coming and visiting that Techstars cohort in 2019. That was at the stage where there was talk of DEXs, right, of decentralized exchanges, but it really hadn't reached a meaningful scale then. And now we see through players like 0x that it really is, going up against, the large centralized exchanges that we see. So that's been a huge development. The invention of, say, locks, for example, token locks, and making sure that it just can't be bought and sold is something that's completely different to when I started back in 2017. And then I suppose finally, just to cap it off, I mean, obviously we're in a phase now where we're evaluating, what have we actually built in the last few years, and one of the things I forgot to mention in my intro is, I spent the last 3 years working in fintech and crypto in Latin America and Mexico specifically, hence the flag, right? I'm not actually Mexican. But having been in that environment, I've seen firsthand the impact that, say, stablecoins are happening. It's not just people are talking about it. One of the biggest use cases that I see in the entire financial industry in Latin America at the moment is people actually using and spending stablecoins as part of everyday life, right? So like, whereas in the past when we got into it, it's like theoretically it could be used to help unbanked people and protect against inflation. We're actually seeing that people are actually using it, and we're not just talking about a few thousand people. I've seen the stats from the companies; it's in the millions of people we're talking about. So, really excited to see the progress in the last few years, and have no doubt that it'll just continue to accelerate.
Amazing. Yeah, the banking the unbanked is one of my main goals as well, and one of the reasons why I fell in love with this industry as well. That financial sovereignty is just incredible to see. Absolutely love that. Perfect. Yeah, that's both of those are absolutely amazing. Thanks for taking the time to kind of go through that and give us a little bit about your backstory. Something I'd kind of like to transition into and talk about a little bit. Backstory is fun and all that, but I want a little bit of the dirt. We'll maybe start with Zac a little bit. Are there any key projects? I know we're kind of nearing the end of Q4, coming up into Q1 2023. Are there any key projects that you're working on? Anything you can share with me? I'd like to know a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes over there at Team.Finance.
Yeah, absolutely. So without lifting the curtain too much up on what we're working on, a big focus for us over the last quarter or two has been token investing and management, right? If you think about, how most startups function at the moment, for example, they might be giving, equity options via a classic example is a 4-year vesting plan with a 1-year cliff, right? And what we see more and more is that there are more and more Web3 companies that want to, as part of their compensation package, be giving out their own native token, for example, right? And how do you adapt that for tokens specifically? Automated vesting, vesting that can be done, because we're dealing with Web3 infrastructure that can be done on a second by second basis. How can you be paying your employees, for example, using a payment stream that's happening on a second by second basis instead of every 2 weeks, for example? So a lot of this is what we've been focusing on over the last wee while at Team.Finance in terms of setting up that infrastructure, actually trying to make things that people want to build. So a lot of customer research about this, and we're really excited, with what we're about to release, what's coming up in the next quarter. And I'll get to it a little bit later on, but a key part of that is 0x as well in terms of how that fits into the chain. So yeah, really excited with what we've got in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard some things, but we'll save that for you. Jessica, yourself, I would love to know. I definitely am not tapped in to the inner workings of 0x, but I would love to know if there's anything that you can share with us, what you've been working on as a company, and if we have any exciting news coming for the future here in the next quarter or two.
Yeah, I was just thinking, there's so many things coming down the pipeline. Need to make this list not too long, I guess. So on the API front, so we have the protocol layer, which is just a bunch of smart contracts that help settle trades. But the APIs really are Xerox Labs' bread and butter. So it's a REST API that makes it really easy to tap into the trade settlement that's happening in the protocol. And so this API, it's aggregating liquidity from a number of different sources and then routing the best price to applications that are plugging into it. And so tweaking and updating the API consistently. So for example, this past year, we released the slippage protection feature, which protects trades from MEV attacks. So continuing to refine the models, refine the models that go into that feature. And kind of in relation to that, our RFQ system, so our request for quotes. So this is a specific type of liquidity where we work with professional market makers to get these trade orders that have zero slippage and work that into the API so that it is provided to end users. And then on the data side, wanted to highlight some of the stuff that we're working on there. So to really make it transparent, like all that's kind of flowing in this 0x ecosystem. We just released the 0x Explorer, so that's in beta right now, but it's continuously being updated. And so what that is just think of this dashboard that allows end users, ecosystem partners to explore all the transactions that are going through 0x, and so be able to see transparently, what end users are going through it, what applications are the top users of 0x API, what's the on-chain activity that's going on. So really provide this breadth of data for builders and end users who are part of the ecosystem. And that's just one tool that's part of the data API that's currently in private beta. So for teams who are interested, reach out to 0x. We're happy to see if you are fit for trialing the data API. So really providing more transparent tooling for builders. And lastly, to top it off, our Matcha product is doing some updates. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see some updates in 2023. So look forward to that V3 revamp there.
Amazing. We love to see it. That's amazing, to be honest. And I guess one question that I did have about that, in regards to, projects that you'd like to be testing the beta, is there anything you're looking for specifically? Is there anything there? Team.Finance, are you testing this beta? What's going on here?
I think any integrator who is excited to explore more into their data, Team.Finance, if you're not already, definitely reach out.
Yeah, no, we are. It was one of the main reasons why we wanted to use and leverage 0x in the first place. Is Jessica's just talked about all the things that they offer and all the things that they're about to offer, and just really impressed with how they've thought about the entire kind of experience from both our perspective, user perspective, and how fast these guys ship as well. It's extremely impressive to see. And we've loved, working with them so far, and look forward to a really, long and prosperous relationship.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'd kind of like to shift gears a little bit here. I know we're going to talk soon about a little bit of Team.Finance specific and 0x specific questions. But before we get there, we've had a lot of news being popped up in the crypto Web3 world. And I'd love to have a little candid conversation, kind of see what both the experts' opinions on current news would be. So, how this affects the world, how this affects our market and kind of our niche and technology, as well as how we as companies are kind of looking to rectify these mistakes or rectify the situation in the market today, and what we're really doing to fill that gap. Because I do believe there are a lot of companies, Web3 specifically, who are doing absolutely incredible things, like you just said, Zac, and what they're doing at 0x. There's a lot of companies doing really incredible things, and I'd just love to hear our take. So, kind of one of the subjects we wanted to bring up was, the crypto winter. We're kind of sitting in it right now. I don't know if it's a crypto winter for too long. The seasons change. Then all of a sudden we kind of had some FTX drama. There's a little bit of stuff going on around. I'd love to kind of open up some candid conversation around the topics and kind of talk about, what our companies are doing, how this affects us in the future, and just kind of roll from there. Zac, I'd be super interested in your opinion on, the current state of the market, I guess. FTX is obviously on the top of everybody's minds. We're seeing a few lenders and borrowers go under. And I'd be interested in kind of your thoughts as a product lead over there at Team.Finance.
Yeah, look, I think that what happened is obviously extremely unfortunate to everyone that was involved, and I think we all know someone that was directly involved by this, right? So obviously, it's very unfortunate from that aspect. I think that what it'll continue to drive is adoption of self custody, increased use of DEXs, for example. So I think that, like, for a 0x and for a Team.Finance as well, our infrastructure is really based a lot off a self custody future, a decentralized future. And I think that ultimately what happened will reinforce the point to people that one of the major breakthroughs of Web3 technology is being able to be your own custodian, right? And being able to interact with protocols like 0x and decentralized exchanges. And so I think that ultimately, while it's obviously extremely unfortunate, I think that, for both companies, from us, we probably see an uptick in adoption over time as a result of this. But Jessica, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying. I think, Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like this this happening probably won't be the last time, just looking at history. But I think we, moving forward, can and are and should continuously educate and advocate for the tenets of why we're in DeFi to begin with. So whether that's like transparency, self custodial ownership, I think there's a lot of these pillars that I think as the space brings in more new users who might not be as familiar with underlying tech stack and just kind of catching the hype of things, it unfortunately could be dangerous. But it's important that like we continuously build on these core pillars, and I think the projects on this call are definitely doing that. And so continuing to build relationships and advocate for essentially being good players in this space, and doing the right thing and building projects. And I think this is also a discussion of who are we putting our attention and money behind at the end of the day. So I hope that as like I said, as a society, as we adopt this technology moving forward, being optimistic that we'll pivot more attention, after getting these couple big wounds this year, pivot more attention to players and reasons for players in the space that are doing things in the way that DeFi is intending to be done.
Yeah, and for everyone watching right now that hasn't already heard this a million times, not your keys, not your crypto, right? So in terms of this decentralized and self-custodial world, go out and buy yourself something. Get that money off exchanges. That being said, Jessica, I just had a question or a thought, I guess. For the standard viewer who might be watching is kind of like decentralized and API and 0x Labs. Can you tell us a little bit more, kind of after everything we just talked about where you really play into this decentralized self-custody and kind of that I'm new to crypto. So can you please explain in the beginner terms almost, kind of where 0x fits into that whole equation and discussion?
Let's see, where do I start with this one? Maybe starting at I keep going back to the protocol layer because that's kind of where it all started. So what I mean by protocol is nowadays we use protocols all the time. So HTTP is a protocol, SMTP that we use for texting is a protocol. So these are essentially just standards that we've all agreed upon that will exchange information, so packets of data. And so at 0x, what we wanted to create was the standard way that we could trade tokenized value. So right now, we have money that is in a tokenized form, but we see more and more other things of value taking on a tokenized form. And we believe that moving forward, more and more things from physical items to reward points to gaming items will have some sort of tokenized representation that will trade on a blockchain. And so having a standard way for people to trade these tokenized assets is going to be super important for advancing that adoption, just making sure that we're kind of all in agreement so things can flow smoothly. What we see that this empowers is there's potentially just more and more forms of value that are able to be tokenized and put onto blockchains. And so we want to be able to allow people to exchange these pieces of value more easily, and also be able to find the opportunities for trading. And so what 0x does is we want to make this really easy for people. So think about it like when you want to go find a flight. So on Google Flights, say you want to find a flight. So there's potentially just like hundreds of flight websites that you could be looking into. You have to go to each of them individually. So kind of similarly, so if you want to trade a token, right? So you have a USDC token that you want to trade someone for some ETH. So as opposed to going to like every single exchange, going to Uniswap, going to Banker, what we do is kind of what like Google Flights does. We aggregate across all of these different sources and do various routing to help surface the best price. So in the same sense, 0x API is that little middle layer that is helping users find the best price across all these different sources. And then other teams such as Team.Finance can tap into our API and so help their users find that best price across this world of tokenized value that is just continuously getting bigger and bigger.
Bigger and bigger by the second, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, this actually segues us kind of into the next section that we actually wanted to talk about. We have some questions that we've sourced from around the community, from our team as well, that we'd love to ask. And it kind of goes into the new integration. I guess we'll start with Team.Finance on this particular subject. But Zac, yeah, can you explain to us what this new integration with the 0x API means for Team.Finance users? And then can you briefly kind of explain how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two main areas on the Team.Finance website where our users will be able to interact with the 0x API. The first is, the individual token page. So at the moment, a lot of users come to our site to actually see lock information about token projects, right? So like lower cap projects, people are trying to see, okay, what percentage of the liquidity pool is locked up, for example, or what percentage of the team's tokens are locked up, for example. When you're on that page, when you can see that information in front of you and you feel as though you're either confident to buy or sell, you'll be able to interact with this widget, which we powered by the 0x API. Okay. The second area where they'll be able to interact with it is if you are a investor, an employee, for example, and the project that you've invested in or that you're working for has used Team.Finance either to distribute your salary or to distribute your tokens as a result of your investment. You, in that moment of being able to claim your tokens, will instead be able to buy and sell it straight from the source type of thing. So what that avoids is right now what happens is people will go to that claims token page, they'll withdraw it to their MetaMask wallet, for example, they'll pay one gas fee for that, and then they might have to they'll usually buy and sell like straight after that, right? So you're incurring two gas fees. Really, what we're saying is you right there in the moment, instead of withdrawing that first process and then that second step, you'll be able to combine that into one step. So it's just about convenience, right? When you're actually claiming those tokens, being able to buy and sell in that process, and then have it deposited, straight away into your MetaMask in the token that you want to, type of thing. So for us, it's about providing convenience to those users, and really, there's no better partner to do this. I mean, Jessica just talked about the processes that go behind it, whereas the 0x API is really like a Google Flights for scans all these dexes and comes back with the best price. We did a lot of analysis on things, and we're really impressed with the results we've seen from a value perspective for users, from a pricing perspective, and also with features like slippage protection, which Jessica mentioned before, which we think are going to be really valued by our users.
It sounds like quite the useful integration. It almost just perfectly makes sense, doesn't it?
That's the intention, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. It's nice when those things just fall into place a little bit. You're like, wow, this really makes sense. We should just do this. Awesome. Well, you kind of did answer my next question a little bit. So you're already one step ahead of me. But if you could summarize it into kind of that bullet point, that one reason, why should users trade on Team.Finance using the 0x API instead of other services? There's so many places to trade. What's that one reason that users should use Team.Finance?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, as you mentioned, there's a lot of places where people can buy and sell. And for us, it's about honestly saving people money and being an extremely convenient option from a UX UI perspective. Ultimately, that's what kind of sets it apart. We think that, from a convenience perspective, if you're revising token details on the token page, it makes sense to stay in there as opposed to going to another website. But then from a practical basis as well, save yourself some money. If you're an investor or an employee, you're going to that claims page. Why would you pay double the gas fees? Just go onto there and save yourself some cash like that. So that would be the main value proposition there.
Savings. Everybody likes likes that, especially in today's market sentiment. Never hurts to save a couple bucks. Absolutely. We'll just continue along with this Team.Finance line of questioning really quick until we pop over to 0x. in regards to Team Finance has been traditionally known as, a liquidity locking service. I know there's tons. I could go on forever about all the services that you provide. Why is it important for new Web3 companies to use your services? Like, what is so important about teams locking their team tokens and liquidity? Can you kind of explain that to me? Why is this an important service in the Web3 space?
Yeah, I mean, it's in my opinion, using services like token mint or liquidity locks, for example, is the easiest way to 10x your credibility and trust for an extremely low cost, right? It's a no-brainer. It is best practice. If you think about traditional kind of startup world, for example, you can't, raise a seed round and then the expectation is not that you have full access to sell off your shares, for example, right? And so, with that mindset in mind, you want to show dedication to the project. You want to show that you're going to be working on this for the long run. And this is a very easy way to show this. My kind of question to anyone wondering is like, why would you not do it? It's such a easy, straightforward thing. It's the baseline, I think, for most projects. They should be adopting things like this. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely. And yeah, to me, from everything that you had just said, kind of what I'm pulling from that is it makes sense that kind of builds trust and it turns it into more of a structured system. I really feel like from what you've just explained, everybody should be kind of on this page, as we talked about with the API, kind of everybody on the same page, everybody sharing data in the same way. It makes sense to me 100%. Along with the Team Finance questions, in regards to the new features, products, and services that you might be rolling out, I know we did this a little bit earlier. Is there anything specific that you would like to share with this time? Kind of something that you're rolling out, something that you personally are very excited about.
Yeah, I think it would just kind of go back to what I was kind of mentioning before, right? Token vesting management, cap table management, and easy distribution of payments towards employees. These are products that traditionally have been overlooked, and something that we talked about before is the journey from 2017 to where we are now in terms of infrastructure being built out. What we want to create, ideally, is a full feature set for Web3 native founders type of thing, right? And this is a core part of it, right? Like most companies, many companies in the space will have investors. All companies will have employees, whether that be through a DAO structure or a traditional structure. Giving them the tools to easily be able to go through and process stuff like this is our goal. And so, we are absolutely, very, very excited to kick things off at, the beginning of next year, end of this year, with those sets of tools. So yeah, watch the space.
I'm excited to see it. Lastly, before we head over to 0x right here, can you tell me a little bit about Team Finance's competitive advantage? We talk about this a lot. What makes you different from the competition? Where do you really separate yourself?
Yeah, so if we look at Team Finance list of current services, token minting, so token generation, liquidity locking, for example, token vesting and cap table management, staking as a service, this buy and sell functionality that we have through 0x. Most of those services that you see today are like most companies that you'll see do one of those things, and you have to go onto one website for token generation, one website for liquidity locking, one website for token vesting and management. I don't see a reason why you need to do that. As a founder, you want to be able to have all these things in one place. And I think just in terms of reducing confusion, it makes sense to have these all in one dashboard. You can manage all these services. You can do this all in one place. It's a much more convenient thing for you than maintaining 5 different pages, 5 different accounts, et cetera, et cetera. So to kind of sum that up, it would be Team Finance brings all this together, right? Instead of having to go to and use different services. So it makes your life a whole lot easier.
Kind of that one-stop shop for everything you need as a crypto founder.
100%.
Oh, I like that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything going through there. I'd love to pop over to 0x's side. Jessica, I'd love to ask you a couple questions.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. So yeah, kind of in a similar line of questioning, super interesting, and we've sourced these questions from around the community. Can you explain to everyone that's going to be watching this a little bit about the 0x API and how 0x works as a company?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of layers to it. Let's see. So different layers to this game, I guess. So yeah, I think the Xerox is probably attached to a lot of different things. So just want to clarify some different entities and projects related. So I keep talking about the Xerox protocol. So that's that underlying layer of the stack. So that's just a bunch of open source smart contracts that's doing the trading, doing the trade settlement. So what that means is if I give to you something, you give me something, the smart contracts check that, confirm it, and then pass it on to the blockchain, and it's cemented there. And then on top of the protocol, we have the Xerox API. So this is a REST API that uses HTTP that makes it really easy for web developers to tap into the logic in that protocol layer. Because as a web developer, I'm not going to really want to be. It's a lot easier for me to use REST than to know how to work with the smart contract. So creating this API layer. And then, as we mentioned before, we can add a lot of features to it. So we talked about slippage protection. We talked about finding liquidity across different sources. We talked about potentially taking a single order and having that order come from a number of different sources, factoring gas costs. So that API layer is handling all that in the back end for application developers. And then at the very top of this, are the different applications that are tapping into the layers below it. So whether that be a Team.Finance, Matcha. So Xerox Labs has our own product that we use as dog fooding. So it's called Matcha. It's a DEX aggregator. And so yeah, Xerox Labs so specifically focuses then on the API and our Matcha product. And then also so continuously working with all these different projects in the ecosystem that are building on the API. And I do want to mention that Xerox Labs is one of the projects that is focused on moving this protocol forward. So it's an open source protocol, and we have a governance team. So Xerox Labs is one of the teams in collaboration with others that are putting out updates and voting as to where we want to see this protocol go. So whether that's providing grants to projects that are building on it, voting on feature updates. So this year we re-added back in our NFT swapping capability into the protocol, and just future even more improvements moving forward. So I think it's pretty fun because we get to hit different layers of the stack, and Xerox Labs gets to be a part of each of these layers in different ways.
Mm-hmm. I know I've already said it before, but I said it about Team.Finance, but it almost seems like you're positioning yourself as kind of this one-stop shop as well for developers and for usage in this API.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely want to take a look at it from a holistic perspective of it's not just like build this one tool, but how do we build the best experience for developers who are using this tool? So whether that's providing data and XYZ, other things involved.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I think specifically on this topic, that simplicity in use for the developers as well, and that interface is super important. We have a team right here, Team.Finance. Zac, how do we feel about the simplicity? Is this easy to use? Is this a 5-star review?
Yeah, I mean, talking with the tech team, part of the evaluation when we're looking at providers was that simplicity and that easiness of integration, and all the feedback from our tech team was this is incredible, this is super easy. So I'd say even a 6-star review is pretty happy with things. Yeah.
Stamp that on Google. We're ready to go.
Definitely put that on all our shirts now.
Team.Finance says
yes.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I did a little bit of research throughout the company. Took a peek through the website. I was very impressed as I was going through everything. And there's just something that caught me with my personal mission in the Web3 world. But ZeroX's mission statement is build a tokenized world where all value can flow freely. Can you explain that mission a little bit more to me?
Yeah, I think I'm curious what you think about when you first hear it, as someone who hasn't heard or hasn't had it discussed with us, perhaps.
Absolutely. So the reason that this caught my mind, I know we kind of talked about banking the unbankless. That was kind of one of my personal goals, and the reason why I work at TrustSwap. It's a big important thing to me. And hearing this, like building a tokenized world where all value can flow freely. To me personally, and I actually don't know the answer to this question, which is pretty cool. To me personally, the way that I read that is using tokenization, using the technology that we have and that you've created at 0x Labs to allow everyone access to the game. And the game meaning whether it's tokenizing assets, whether it's NFTs, whether it's, participating. TrustSwap has launch pads, right? So decentralized launches and non-decentralized launches. Building your own company from the ground up with a suite of tools provided by Team.Finance, or being a developer and integrating the 0x Labs API into your personal project. To me, what it sounds like is that in this tokenized world, you're providing access to every single person. I hope I'm right, but that's kind of what I read from that.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that as like a right or wrong. I think I asked that more so. I think we for us who maybe hear it or have said it often, they might certain parts of it might have some blind spots too. So always excited to hear how other people interpret the mission. But I think you hit on everything that like really resonates with myself and with the team. I think one thing that coming in, like the idea that global access. So this idea of a geographical lottery. So meaning where you are born, kind of it determines so much of what we have access to. And so this idea that we are able to create more and more markets that individuals are able to tap into more easily, and so they have more opportunities then to help bring them to like better situations in life, or empower them to get get access to certain things that perhaps wouldn't have been possible. I think is like a driving factor behind why we create the tools that we are working on.
Amazing. Yeah, it seems that we all have a vision and a goal that's kind of interlocked in that. It's hard to quantify though. When I try to bring it up personally as well, it's hard to quantify that goal, but it's really just giving everybody access. I love that you brought up the geographical lottery. I'm sure everybody on this call has heard that a lot, and we're all very fortunate. So might as well spread that love a little bit and push that forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I think Zac was mentioning his prior work, or his prior experience in like LATAM, and just seeing how stable coins have like provided like forms of financial stability for individuals there, and like seeing how access to that as a practical example, I think is super powerful.
Yeah, it's obviously something we take for granted, but when you don't have it, makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, on that note, while moving along, we've talked about the 0x API. We've talked about the structure of the company. We've talked about how it works. Can you explain to me how integrations with products or projects like Team.Finance help kind of in the completion of your mission statement? Why is this Team.Finance 0x collaboration so important in building that world that we just spoke about?
Well, I think it's like we were talking about, it's a really big vision. And I don't think doing it alone is possible. And also building with other people is much more fun. And everyone comes in with different perspectives, different life experiences. I think it's part of why I like working at the infrastructure layer, because in a way for me, it's like, I can share this template of what could be done, but there are people who can take that and run with it, given their background, their life experiences, and like really mold it in a way that is applicable to the community that they know. And so similarly, working with projects such as Team.Finance, they get to specialize in this area that like they have the experience and expertise in, and so we get to provide them tooling to do that, and they can run with it and like really grow that area and work with the teams, the investors, the people who want to be a part of it, like really refine that experience. So yeah, for us, it's really about like how do we accomplish this mission at scale, and I think this is the most practical way of accomplishing that.
Amazing. So, talking about the future a little bit, can you tell us a bit about what the future of ZeroX looks like as a company? Do we have any big plans or announcements coming down the pipeline that you can share with us?
Oof. Yeah, our team's been hard at work, so 2023 will be an even more exciting year, I think, for releases. So we're continuously building at different layers of the stack. So starting with taking a look at API layer, so improving that developer tool. So finessing the slippage protection feature, adding new forms of liquidity, refining our RFQ liquidity, so our request for quote liquidity, which has absolutely zero slippage, so zero MEV attack on it. And then also in relation to that, the providing more transparency as to what's going on throughout the ZeroX ecosystem. So we released the ZeroX Explorer, which is this web-based dashboard that allows you to see all the transactions that are going through the ecosystem. And then at a higher level, we're working on the data API. So even more data for the developers who are building on our tooling, and so they can provide the best experiences for their users, and users can also see, what's happening in the back for these projects that they're using. So API, and then I want to talk about a little bit about governance. So the protocol, we're involved with the governance side of continuously improving updates, providing updates to the protocol. So our governance team is hard at work on, how do we perhaps refashion certain on-chain voting programs, revamping grants. So teams that want to build with us, how do we give them the best best opportunity forward? And then on the retail side, our Matcha app, we're continuously updating that retail-facing product. So kind of work on all fronts going on.
All fronts. Multi-vertical is kind of like most of the companies around here. Working on a lot of products at the same time, but delivering that quality. I love to see it. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for answering all those questions about ZeroX. I'm sure the community is going to be super excited to hear all of this. I kind of thought it'd be a little cool to end this conversation with a little bit of your, I guess, subjective opinions on the current state of Web3, kind of some stuff going on here, because many people watching this, they don't often get to pick the brains of product leads and people so deeply entrenched in the community. I think right out of the gate, we've talked about solving a lot of problems. We've talked about contributing to a future that we believe in. A lot of different subjects that rely around trust, security, and decentralization, self-custody, and changing really what the future is going to look like. For both of you, I have a question, and it's quite subjective. What do you believe is the greatest challenge that the industry is facing today? I'd love to hear what you think, and if we can have a little candid discussion about that, that'd be awesome. Jessica, if you'd like to start it off, that'd be amazing.
Ooh, the hefty question. The greatest challenge, yeah, and with a tough one there. Let's see, and what the greatest challenge that the industry is facing today. Let's see, from maybe one thing that comes to mind, because a lot of what I do day to day is talk with developers, I think, is like creating tools, so user-facing tools that the users are, that new users coming in are comfortable using, understand what's happening, and they have a use case and reason for. So I think this cycle, we've seen a lot of good apps take hold, but I think as we continue to move forward, it's like bringing in new users and giving them a good user experience that is not just overwhelming to them of like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? So like really finding good product market fit and then building tools that have good user experiences. Yeah, it's a bit vague, but I think I'm actually quite excited to see, like, for example, on the NFT side, like what are more user facing, like real experiences, so that, say, like I go home during the holidays, this will be something that my family actually understands and like will be using. So those are tools that those are I think that's a big challenge that I see on the retail side.
It's something you don't always think about because we're so fortunate. When I bust out this phone, just every app on it, which is almost the same, is just so meticulously created. So the interface is just flawless, and you almost take for granted what's kind of going behind there when you click like on Facebook or you double tap on Instagram and the little heart shows up. You really take for granted the developer time. You take for granted everything that's behind that. I couldn't agree with you more. I've shown, my mom and dad um, a lot of Web3 stuff, and it's a little confusing to them. I never really thought about that too much. That's an outstanding
Yeah, it's like, how much
challenge that
mental
we're facing.
gymnastics do you want me to do before I get to finish what I need to do on this page?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something everybody should be focusing on moving forward. 100%. Zach, what about yourself? Kind of the greatest challenge facing the industry in your opinion?
Yeah, agree that user experience is still a huge hurdle. So I 100% agree with that, and I'll kind of layer onto that. Communication is just still super poor throughout the industry, right? And like what I specifically mean by this is when most people in the world think of Web3 at the moment, they think of like price appreciation scams. I think like the vast majority of them, right? But there's so much good stuff going on in like real tangible business use cases, right? But that doesn't get talked about, right? So for me, I'd love to see, industry wide, especially as we kind of consolidate and there's not as much price action. Let's focus on like what are the key narratives where crypto is actually doing. How are NFTs helping artists, for example? Like that's actually like, okay, theoretically, yes, we've all talked about it, but like what is like the actual numbers look like at the moment? What do the actual numbers look like of stablecoin adoption, throughout places like Latin America? Why is Mercado Libre, which is the Amazon of Latin America, launching their own token? Right, these people are not dumb; like they're very very intelligent people. Why did Nubank, which is the largest digital bank in the world with 50 million users, decide to launch crypto trading and like launch services working with Polygon? I'm not sure of the exact specifics there, but again, like really drawing attention to these actual use cases. And I think that's like what we need to do over the next like wee while. Like, well, actually, I'm not as interested in, price signals and everything like that, but like, let's really focus in on the communication side of what we do well, what's changing, and not just the theoretical stuff, but like the practical stuff, what's actually being done. That's where I think, our biggest challenge is at the moment and where we have so much room to grow.
Absolutely. Kind of in that, coming from a marketing background, that communication thing is always the hardest thing to, for me personally, to kind of go through because you got to sift through the price action or, separating Bitcoin from crypto, for example, is a prime example
Right.
that Bitcoin might be something different than, X token or Y token. Super interesting stuff. And I could not agree with either of you, more. It's a couple things that we got to take care of as an industry, but it's amazing to see such talented teams working hard to make this happen. And I'm very excited about that. Yeah, getting near the end of our time though, and I'm super appreciative to have both of you on the call. I was just wondering, do we have any final remarks? Anything that we kind of want to, a 30-second snip to leave the community with? Zach, I'd love to start with you if there's anything you'd like to say to kind of end this off.
Oh, put me on the spot. Really thrilled to be working with the 0x team again. Like they've been fantastic to work with, super professional throughout the entire process. And for the Team.Finance community in general, this is the first big announcement of many over the coming months. And really looking forward to get your feedback. Right, so we'd love to hear from our users about how they find it, where we can improve upon. But yeah, really excited about what the future holds.
Awesome. And I'll turn on the mic over to you, Jessica. Anything you want to kind of leave the community with before we sign off?
Yeah, just want to say again, super excited to be working with Team.Finance. I think we mentioned before, like we can't do this without with our partners. So really excited to be working with you all and seeing the work that you're building out. On the Xerox side, I think I'll copy Zac's remarks there, but yeah, just also want to highlight that with all these new features coming out, we'd love to get feedback on it. So whether you're a developer out there using our product, building, please reach out to us. We're around the Discord. I'm there, so feel free to ping me if you have any feedback on the resources, the tooling. And then on the retail side too, yeah, feel free to drop a comment for if you're using Matcha, and yeah, we're here to build these tools for you guys. So would love to engage with you however best fits.
Awesome. And yeah, from the TrustSwap side of things, I want to thank both of you. I want to thank the community for tuning in. As they both stated, without your feedback and without you, we're nothing. So we need to build together and work together as a team. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Zac, for participating. Really appreciate you and very excited about what Team.Finance is up to. Jessica, same to you. I'm very excited to keep an eye on ZeroX, see what's going to happen in the future. And I'm really excited to see what the collaboration between the two companies is going to bring. Thank you both so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks to everyone that tuned in. Take care.
Thanks for being a great host, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Zac.